Hey everybody, my name's Cole. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things to get us finished, because I think a lot of us have ideas being a dime a dozen, but it really doesn't matter a whole lot if we don't take those ideas from start to finish. So I'm going to talk about kind of these 5 things today to get things finished. Work every day, embrace emotion and discipline, put your audience at the center, risk, and then fail and learn. So a little bit quickly about me and some of the process of me learning these 5 things in my own workflow. I run something called the Creative City Project. We produce an annual performing and interactive arts event in the streets and public spaces of downtown Orlando called Immerse. It's actually coming up October 19th and 20th. We'll have about 1,000 artists out in the streets and public spaces of the city. That picture I just showed is one of the performers from Cirque du Soleil hanging from the end of a crane above Orange Avenue. These are the dancers from the Orlando Ballet last year. We built this 50-foot scaffolding structure, had 14 drummers from the Orlando Magic drum line. And this whole thing really just started out with me calling a bunch of friends who are musicians and painters and dancers and saying, hey, come out and do something on the street corner. And it really started with this desire to see our city be known as a city for creativity and innovation on the global platform. And that all was in 2012, and since then it's grown to what we'll have this year in 2018, about 1,000 artists, about 40,000 people over the 2 days. And along the way, we've learned a ton of lessons as we've worked with a lot of artists. So I'm going to talk about these 5 things and how we're in this process of not only starting something and having ideas, because ideas are a dime a dozen, but really moving to the place where we're executing on those ideas and some of the things that we've learned along the way. So this first idea of working every day, one of the things that I've come to the place of understanding and believing is, like, in my life, I was like a musician and an actor and doing some like installation stuff, and was really kind of what it felt like was divided in my attention and my time. And I read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, and in it he talks about somebody's an expert at something once you do it for 10,000 hours. And I was like, man, will I ever come to the point where I've done something that much, where I become an expert in it? And so I had to really kind of take this moment of reflection and ask myself, like, what's the one thing that I want to do? And I came to 2 things, but it was shift paradigms, help people think about things in new ways. And then the second piece of it was to create community. And I stepped back and I began to come to the place where I understood, like, whether it was music or writing or acting or creating like interactive stuff, or what we do now with the Creative City Project and producing this festival, the common thread through all of it, the one thing, was shifting paradigms and creating community. So that's what we're doing with the festival. How are we transforming the way people see our city, whether they live here or whether they visit here or whether they view it from a distance? And then the second piece of that, creating community, by creating these meaningful shared experiences in the public space. We're asking this question, how are we creating those meaningful moments and connecting people with artists and connecting people with one another? And I think once we come to the point where we understand, like, this is the one thing that I'm pursuing in my life, I want to be a musician. I want to be an actor. I want to start a business. I want to be the best executive I can be. Whatever that one thing is, when we can lock into it, there's probably 3 or 4 things that we need to give our time and attention to every day in order to accomplish that one thing. So for me, with the Creative City Project and that desire to create community and shift paradigms, every day I'm asking, okay, what are we doing creatively? What are we doing from a marketing standpoint? And what are we doing to develop the infrastructure for the organization that we've built? So my one focus, and then the 3 things I'm giving my time and attention to every day. And maybe the one thing that you want to do isn't the thing that you're doing right now. Maybe you have a full-time job, 9 to 5, but you want to be a full-time musician, or you want to be a full-time painter, or you want to start your own company, or you want to sell stuff online, like whatever it is. Even if we're doing that one thing on the side as a side hustle, we have to give time and attention to all of the things, or a few of the things, that help us achieve that objective every day. So I know it's easy to work 9 to 5, come home, you feel exhausted, and you just want to go to bed, or you want to watch TV, you want to like watch the latest Game of Thrones episodes or whatever it is. If that's the kind of habit that we develop in our process, I don't know if we'll ever get to the destination of achieving the one thing that it is we say we want to do. Another aspect of this concept is if you don't use it, you'll begin to lose it. And I see this in my life. Like, there are some creative outlets that I love. Like, think about learning a song, if you've ever learned a song on an instrument. So for me, it's guitar. If I played that song every day, I'd be an expert at playing that song. The longer I don't play that song, the more I lose that ability to play that song. You could expand that even bigger to playing an instrument in general. So the more I play that instrument, the more expert I will be at playing it. The less I play it, the farther I get away from the last time I played it, I'll begin to lose that ability. So when we talk about the value of working on something every day, working on that one thing, working on that dream every day, we recognize that if we don't use it, we'll lose it. I took a ton of writing classes in college, and one thing, the one common thread for every single one of those writing professors was the instruction to write every day. If you want to be a writer, the only way you can become a writer is to write every day. So conversely, from if you don't use it, you'll lose it, is this idea. Practicing every day changes your ability to accomplish tasks quickly and on demand. And these are two things that I think creative people or entrepreneurial people sometimes neglect. We think, I'll wait for this moment of inspiration. I'll wait for this moment where there's a spark. And if we wait for those moments, the longer we wait for those moments, the more we try to develop a habit of just waiting for inspiration, the less inspiration is going to become. But if we practice every day, it'll move us to a place where we're able to accomplish the tasks that are necessary for accomplishing the thing that we're setting out to accomplish more quickly and on demand. We stop waiting for inspiration. Instead, we develop the habit to achieve the things that it is we want to achieve. So there was a season of my life where I was blogging every day. And at first I started thinking, I don't know how I'll ever blog every day. I don't know where I'll find the content. I don't know where I'll concept that content. I don't know where I'll get those ideas. But the more I blogged every day, the more quickly I developed a muscle to be able to create on demand. I stopped waiting for inspiration, because if I'm waiting for inspiration to write, I'm never going to make space in my life to be inspired. But if I force myself to sit down and on a schedule create, I begin developing a habit to create more quickly and on demand. So the second thing that I think we can do in order to step into the things that it is that we want to do is to embrace emotion and discipline. And these two things, I think, are things that we as individuals tend toward one or the other. I think either we tend toward emotion and we tend away from discipline, or we tend toward discipline and we move away from emotion. But if you're a creative person, if you're creating something, if you're an artist or an entrepreneur, both these things have to be sewn into what we do to achieve success as we try to do that thing. So sensitivity, the emotional aspect of what we do, is important because it is our greatest strength as creative people, but it can also be our greatest liability. So why is it our greatest strength and simultaneously our greatest liability? Is because sensitivity, if you are creating things, you have to kind of tap into the unseen realities around us. We're in tune with the emotional realities around us. We're in tune to the behaviors of people. We're in tune to what's happening in society. If we're starting a company, the same thing is true. It's essential that we're sensitive to the needs of our customer, that we're sensitive to the climate, the cultural climate we're in, what's happening in the culture, how are people responding to our business, how are people responding to our messaging, is our marketing effective? All those things have to do with this emotional center of sensitivity. And then it could also be our greatest liability at the same time, because if we move too far into the realm of sensitivity, we become overwhelmed. Why aren't people buying my product? Why aren't people listening to my music? Why aren't people reading my content? And we can quickly move into a place where that sensitivity that's essential for us to be able to create becomes a liability that's depressive. That's how we move into a place of allowing depression to overtake us. And that is a theme that we see in the lives of a lot of creative people, where emotion and sensitivity begins to overtake the creative person and leads us to a place of despair about life. And so that greatest strength of being a sensitive person who can know what's happening in culture and speak to it, if we're not careful, it can also become our greatest liability. And this kind of moves into this other piece of emotion and discipline when it comes to passion. So we say, why are you doing that thing? Why do you want to do that thing? Why do you want to paint that picture? Why do you want to be a musician? Well, I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about reading. I'm passionate about technology. And we kind of use that concept of passion to get us off the ground. And I'll say that passion is a wonderful gift, but I think a lot of times we just associate passion with feeling good about stuff. And I would suggest to us that passion is way deeper than just feeling good about things. Passion is this continual cycle. So here's how I've kind of come to view passion, because at one point I said passion's a liability. And I think I moved to a deeper place of understanding passion to say it was a liability because eventually we don't feel passionate. But I think passion is just bigger than that. And I think this is how my understanding of passion has grown. So there's that initial spark of desire to step into the thing that it is we say we want to do. So I'm passionate about music, love it, gonna do it every day. Well, eventually playing guitar in your room by yourself can get boring. Or I want to be a writer. Eventually writing for 4 hours a day gets boring. It doesn't feel like it used to feel. And this is where the second half of passion comes in. The second half of passion is to say, I believe in the big vision. I believe in the power of this thing. I believe in the direction I'm moving. And because of my belief in that, the second half of passion is discipline to go deeper into the thing that it is I say I believe in or want to do. So passion is the cycle of finding excitement in the thing that we're doing, losing that excitement as we get into the nitty-gritty of what it is that we're doing, moving into a deeper place of understanding or engagement with that thing, circling back around where it's exciting again, and it's this constant cycle. So anytime that we're setting out to accomplish something, when we're moving from the starting line to the finish line, we're going to experience that over and over again. Obviously, athletes experience this thing. If you're running a marathon, you start off, it's exciting, you get to the middle of it, it's exhausting, and then you move kind of over this hump and you get this runner's high and it pushes you further into the marathon. You go deeper into the activity and it circles back around to this excitement about what it is that we're doing. So with Creative City Project, personal example of this for me is I love what we're doing. I love the mission. It started with me calling friends and saying, come play on the street corner. Making phone calls and sending text messages is kind of easy. And then everybody else did the work of coming out and playing their instrument on the street corner. That was 2012. We didn't have sound. We didn't have lights. We didn't have permits. Honestly, we weren't even expecting anybody to show up because it was just one of those things where it's like whoever stumbles on it, stumbles on it. Well, now here we are in 2018, and there's 1,000 artists at this thing, and there's 40,000 people at it, and we have to have insurance, and we have to, hire contractors, and I have to go out and raise $540,000, and it's a totally different ballgame. And that's where this idea of passion comes in, is I'm passionate about the big vision. I don't like sending emails. I don't like sending thank you notes. I don't like working on insurance. I don't like today I was on Alibaba sending messages back and forth with the manufacturer in China. I never thought I'd have to learn international shipping, but that's what I was doing with the second half of my day today. So we're building this 3,200 square foot ball pit in the middle of downtown for our event this year, and we needed 300,000 balls. Well, where are you going to get 300,000 balls? Only in China. So, all right, so we got to find a manufacturer in China. We got to work on the shipping. Right now, there are 2 40-foot containers full of ball pit balls on a ship somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. And it's on its way here. And then those have to get through customs, and then they have to get on a truck from Jacksonville to Orlando. And then I got to find a bunch of people who in the Florida hot September sun are going to have to offload 300,000 balls from 2 40-foot shipping containers and put them in a warehouse. And then we're going to have to load all 300,000 of those balls back from the warehouse into a box truck and bring them in downtown Orlando for our event. That is not fun. It interests me 0%. But I am passionate about what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. I'm passionate about seeing Orlando have a vibrant cultural community. I'm passionate about seeing the people who call Orlando home care about calling Orlando home. I'm passionate about Orlando being known on the global platform as a city for creativity and innovation. I'm passionate about those things. And that means I'm going to have to send, messages to China and get responses back in half English, half not English, and figure it out. And it's not fun, but that's what it means for us to be passionate about something and to go through this cycle of embracing emotion and discipline. Success is directly related to what I do when I don't feel like it. I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like going outside and unloading 300,000 balls from two 40-foot shipping containers. I don't feel like it. But our success will be directly related to my willingness to do that alongside of a team of really talented people who are there to do it because they care about the end mission as well. And so if we're going to move from the starting line to the finish line, we're going to embrace emotion because that sensitivity is the reason that we started doing what we're doing, and it's the thing that's going to sustain what we're doing. But I'm going to circle around to discipline as well because there are going to be days where I'm going to wake up and I don't want to do the things that are necessary to achieve the vision and the goal that I've set out to achieve. Make sense? So this brings us to craft. Growth is a process of daily engagement over a really long period of time. Right back to the first thing that we talked about. Make every day, create every day, and that's the way that we're going to grow. So in 2013, year number 2 of our annual event, this is a picture of some dancers. You can see them down there in the corner of 3 dancers doing a performance at Chase Plaza, right around the corner from here. And then in 2016, just 3 years later, you can't really see this very well, but there were a couple dozen people standing around those 3 dancers in the first picture. Here, it is from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, to the bottom of the screen, to the other side of the road, slammed with people watching this performance. And that didn't happen because we just worked on this thing when we felt like it. It happened because there's a team of people who are saying, I'm willing to work, and work means doing stuff when I don't feel like it. And I think this is one of my pet peeves with artists in general. And it's one of my pet peeves with myself. I think a lot of people become artists because we think it gives us permission to wake up at noon. And we start feeling guilty when we're artists who begin applying discipline to our practice because, well, am I a sellout? Am I not doing what artists do? Am I not doing, am I not living a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll? Well, that is not how successful artists become successful artists in 2018. Successful artists, successful entrepreneurs are people who do the work when they don't feel like doing it. Brings us to number 3. Put your audience at the center. So if we're going to go from the starting line to the finish line, it's going to happen partially because we're putting our audience at the center. When we think about creating something, when we think about our passions, when we think about starting a business, when we think about making art, a lot of times if we're asked, why do you do that? Well, it's an opportunity for self-expression. It's something that I love to do. All the answers about why we do what we do are often associated with us as people. I like it. I want it. It makes me feel fulfilled. And that's wonderful. So let's praise that. Let's say that's good. Let's recognize it for what it is. But we experience a totally different level of what we're doing when we move our center of focus from ourselves to our audience. And the thing that separates a hobbyist from a professional is this, an audience. You and I can make songs or write books or whatever, and if nobody ever reads them, we're never going to become a professional at that thing. The thing that's going to separate a hobbyist from a professional is an audience who buys the stuff, right? So as long as you see your audience as a means to an end, you're destined to fail in the long term because your audience is going to feel that. Your audience is going to recognize that. Your audience is going to know it. And they're going to say, wait, why would I ever pay for the thing that you're offering? You should be paying me because I can sense from you that I'm here for you. You're not here for me. And I think, let's take it back to music just because Leo's sitting right in front of me. I'm thinking music this whole time. So it's like taking it back to music. Well, I'm going to write this song that, is just an overflow of my heart and my emotions and wonderful. But the only moment that helps you move into a place where you actually to achieve the thing that it is you're setting out to achieve, if it's full-time, being a full-time musician, the only way that's going to happen is if your audience resonates with the message and the lyrics and the song and the musicality of what it is that you're doing. Being self-indulgent as an artist or an entrepreneur will never get you from the starting line to the finish line. The only way we can do that is to have empathy. So what does that mean? Empathy means that we ask, what does my audience want, and how can I help them get it? It's the greatest tool in long-term success. So we start saying, okay, this creative career, this business that I'm starting it because I love it. I'm starting it because I'm passionate about it. I'm starting it because it gets me excited. But we very quickly have to move into asking the question, okay, what does this mean for my audience? What does my audience want? And how can I help them achieve it? So for us at the Creative City Project, I'm asking this question all the time. And we have a lot of audiences. So we have artists are one of our organization's audiences. And what do artists want? They want to be platformed. They want to be paid. They want to be supported. They want to have somebody working alongside of them that says, that's a great idea. How can we help you take it to the next level and make it bigger than you've ever dreamed it could be? Artists want to make art. They want to be paid for it. They want to be supported in it. And so how can our organization, as we partner with these 1,000 performers and artists, help them achieve that objective? Another audience that we have is our literal audience that shows up to the event. What are they looking for? They're looking for creativity. They're looking to live a life of creativity and adventure. How can we help them experience things, creative encounters that they could never experience anywhere else? What are we providing for them that no one else is providing for them? And how are we helping make that journey a wonderful journey to experience? Are there hurdles that are in the way for them experiencing that? Is it difficult for them to park? Is it difficult for them to get here? How are we clearing out those roadblocks for them to be able to experience and encounter what it is they want to experience and encounter? Another audience that we have is our corporate strategic partners. And so I have to ask, okay, one of our big sources of income is corporate strategic partnership. And we moved that term from fundraising a couple years ago because we just realized that that's not what serves our audience. If our audience is these corporate partners, they're not going around saying, how can we help organizations fundraise? They're going around saying, how can we invest in the community? How can we make an impact on the community? How can we associate our brand with meaningful experiences? How can we do things to reach audiences in ways that we've never reached audiences before? And so those are the questions that we're asking, and those are the things that I'm talking about when I go meet with those corporate partners. Another one of our audiences is the government. We work hard with governmental organizations, the City of Orlando, the Downtown Development Board, Orange County, and they want to see the county and the city and downtown be vibrant and thriving. They want to see business and commerce. And so what message am I giving to each of those people? How am I helping them achieve the thing that it is they're trying to achieve? Well, okay, the county, the city, downtown, they want to have a lot of business. They want to promote commerce. How are we helping them do that? Well, that comes down to workforce. Why does a workforce choose to live where they choose to live? Arts and cultural experiences, interesting food, interesting things to do. And so our organization is committed to promoting and creating interesting things for people to do year-round. And so that's one of the things that I talk about a lot. So all of our audiences all deserve something different, and we move into a different place when we stop just thinking about ourselves and we put our audience at the center of what it is that we're doing. And so clearly defining our objectives helps us know who we can serve. So you don't know who you're going to serve until you know where you're going as an artist or where you're going as an entrepreneur. If we try to serve everyone, we end up serving no one. And so even this talk is designed for people who are trying to finish stuff, who maybe have an idea, who are maybe creative, who maybe want to start a business. That's who this talk is for. And if you aren't one of those people, you're maybe sitting here thinking, why did I come to this? But that's who I'm talking to. And then if we can define who it is or where it is that we want to go, we can begin defining who it is we want to say that thing to. The last piece of this, put your audience at the center. As an artist, it's your job to build bridges between your audience, where your audience is, and where you want them to be. So one of the popular mindsets of artists is, I'm going to make what I'm going to make, and if anybody likes it, then they're going to like it. And we take this really autonomous, kind of elitist attitude about making things. Some businesses do this same thing. We're going to make what we're going to make. We may or may not find an audience. And if they like us, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. And if that's your attitude as a business, chances are you're going to shutter your doors pretty quickly. I've experienced businesses like that. And people walk in and they feel isolated and they feel alienated and they feel like they are not welcomed into the business. But once the business or the artist says, all right, it's my job to build a bridge between where my audience is right now and where I want them to be. Classic example and classical arts all around. Orchestral music is struggling around the world right now. Arts organizations who focus on classical music are struggling around the world. And I think that's directly related to the long-standing attitude of orchestral music that says, here we are in our black tuxes. If you fit into the elite class, you come to our thing. Well, the world's just not interested in that anymore. And it's up to the organization to say, all right, how are we creating experiences for people that meets a new audience in a new era with new experiences and then helps bridge the gap between where that audience is and where we want them to be, which is ultimately attendees at their concerts. So no matter what it is that we're doing, that's true for us. Number 4, risk. It's one of the things that gets us from the starting line to the finish line. Living on the edge of risk is really uncomfortable, but it's the only way we'll change the world. Bravery is at the center of accomplishing the things that it is that we set out to accomplish. Now, this is really uncomfortable. Like, I have encountered a lot of anxiety in doing the things that it is that we do. This is a picture of our audience from 2017. Here's another picture of our audience members from 2017. And these are the people that I go to bed thinking about. These are the people that I wake up maybe in the middle of the night thinking about. And there was a long season of time where I was waking up every day, hours before my alarm, feeling the weight of thousands of people expecting to come and experience our event and feeling all the pressure to do that. Living on the edge of risk is really uncomfortable, and it can be anxiety-inducing, and it's not fun. But it's the only way we really step into accomplishing the things that it is we want to accomplish. If we just stay where we are, if we stay comfortable, we'll never move into the territory that will allow us to accomplish the things that we're setting out to accomplish. Taking chances doesn't get easier, it gets more difficult. This is another challenge. So, I think when we started, getting serious about this thing in 2014, there was a lot of anxiety. But I started thinking to myself, okay, it's going to get easier. And there are some things that have gotten easier. But if our organization is going to continue to grow, it means I'm going to continually put myself and my team in a place where we're doing things we've never done before, like ordering 300,000 balls from China, right? And so we've never done that before. There's new things that we have to learn. And if we're going to grow next year, we'll have this under our belt, and we'll have to do other things that we've never done before. The greatest challenge of that is now there are way more eyes watching us, and the stakes are way higher. And so where I thought, well, it'll be easier to take risk in the future, the opposite is actually true. It gets more difficult because there's way more people paying attention. Every time the world gets better, it's because someone was brave enough to take risk. Ending hunger around the world is not an easy task. It's not easy, and it's only going to happen because people take risks. The world is going to change because risk takers step out and take risk even when it's uncomfortable. And we use the example of ending global hunger, big important thing. Well, that is extrapolated all the way down to what it is that we do every day. Talking to a stranger that we see sitting in the Melrose Center. And we're sitting here alone, and they're sitting here alone, and we can just all sit alone for the rest of our lives. Or we can do the uncomfortable thing to cross the chasm and meet somebody new. It goes all the way down to something as simple as that. And lastly, number 5, to get us from the starting line to the finish line, fail and learn. And I think this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned, to reframe failure as part of a larger arc of growth. What does that mean? What you say and do today isn't final. It's just the next step of a lifelong journey. And so I think that we have, a lot of times, we're immobilized by the fear of failure. And it's because we think if we fail, it's the end of the road for us. If we say the wrong thing, if we do the wrong thing, if we make the wrong choice, it's going to be the end of the road because that failure will define everything about our future. But that's not the way it is. You and I are engaged in a process of growing and failing and learning, and then growing and failing and learning, and it's this cyclical process. And unless we learn to reframe Failure in the context of seeing it as an inevitable step of moving from the starting line to the finish line. We might trip, we might get scraped, we might get bruised, we might get laughed at, we might get jeered at, we may not finish on time. Whatever the things that it is that we're afraid of, if we're unwilling to reframe those things to a place of an inevitability of just going from point A to point B, we'll always stay immobilized. So we must reframe failure as part of the process towards success. We have to expect it. 2 years ago, 90% of the conversations I had with people about helping us fund what it is that we're doing resulted in a no. Today, that's probably 50%. But it's something that's still hard. It's not easy to get 50% no's. So it's part of the process. It's learning to reframe those no's. So why does any of this even matter? What's the so what of all of this? Well, I think these 5 things of getting from the starting line to the finish line are the way that we're really going to have an impact on the world around us. For us, through the Creative City Project, the first thing that we're passionate about is cultivating a thriving arts community in Orlando. I love that. I'm passionate about that. I care about that. It's not easy, but that's what we care about. The second thing that we do is helping the residents of Orlando care more about calling it home. And so we're creating meaningful shared experiences in the public spaces that engage people with a sense of place, with the physical environment that they walk into for our event, Immerse, every October. We're creating meaningful shared experiences between artists and other audience members in the public space to radically and realistically transform the way all of us experience our city. And lastly, the third piece of what it is that we're all about. Why is this important? It's because we can change the world, literally. And so the big third piece of our mission is to shape the global perception of Orlando as a city known for creativity and innovation, as a hub for creativity and innovation. So at the root of who we are, it's an arts organization. But really, we're an organization dedicated to cultural transformation on the global scale when it comes to who our city is and who we're becoming. And that's our big vision for what we do, and that's why we keep doing it. So these 5 things, I think, are really essential from moving us from the starting line to the finish line. Working every day, embrace emotion and discipline, put your audience at the center, risk, fail and learn. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram, Cole NeSmith, Creative City Project. Find us, follow us. Thank you.